They mocked me for cleaning floors until the CEO found out who I really was. The third cup of coffee exploded against the marble like spilled blood in an OR scene gone wrong. Nobody bothered to wipe it up except the woman who once closed chests with silk suture and prayer. Sandra Collins, 61, stooped without a sound and pressed her mop into the brown splash. Overhead, spotlights dazzled the open-plan office of NeuroNova, a temple of glass and self-importance. Analysts laughed, sales reps ran drills for a coming visit from a Japanese investor, and a junior aide hissed, "Clean faster, he lands in 3 hours." Sandra said nothing. She never did. Her back ached, her hair was steel grey, her uniform shapeless. Still, her eyes tracked heart rates on the wellness kiosk as if the numbers were sacred. A manager tossed an empty cup over her head. It clattered at her feet. Someone snickered. "Think she can even read?" Sandra's gloved fingers tightened around the mop handle, the same grip she once used on a scalpel. She breathed through the rising sting of memory, a field hospital, Afghan dust, a 19-year-old soldier whispering for his mother. She blinked it away. Near the elevators, a motivational banner read, "Every life matters." Sandra's lips twitched. She finished the floor in perfect circles, each stroke measured like a suture line, then disappeared into a storage closet no one else entered. Inside, beneath shelves of bleach and rags, lay a battered metal box stamped with a faded red cross. She slid it out, cradling it like contraband. The lid creaked. A tarnished military medal glimmered beside a dog tag etched Jared Collins O'Neg. Below them rested a photo. Sandra in desert fatigues, arms around the wide grinning kid who called her Doc. The moment before the explosion. The moment before she promised his mother he would come home, then watched him bleed out under a flickering bulb. She whispered, "Sorry, kid," closed the lid, and shoved the box back. Outside, footsteps banged by. "Investors arriving early," someone yelled. "Get maintenance out of sight." Sandra emerged, head low. An intern thrust a plastic tote at her. "Carry these." Her wrist buckled from the weight, but she obeyed. Anything to stay invisible. Anything to keep her oath. No more operations. No more God-playing. She moved past the reception desk, where a wall-sized screen tracked visiting guests. A red pulse scrolled beside the investor's name, tachycardia detected by his smartwatch. Sandra's brow furrowed. She set the tote down, almost reached for the phone, stopped. "Not your fight," she told herself. Down the hall, laughter spiked. "If the old mop earns a tip, we'll buy her teeth." More laughter, cruel and effortless. Sandra kept walking until their voices faded into the air-conditioning hum. Her shift ended at dusk, yet she lingered, wiping fingerprints from chrome railings no one would notice. Night bled into the lobby glass. When the building emptied, she retreated to the quiet janitor's lounge. She washed her hands twice, as if scrubbing for surgery, then sat in darkness, smelling bleach and thinking of bone sores, of battlefield smoke, of the heartbeat that never returned. Outside, thunder rolled. Tomorrow would bring the investor, the rehearsed smiles, the same ridicule. Her palm drifted to her chest where her military badge once rested. She pressed hard, as if to stop a phantom bleed. One floor up, a guard's radio popped static. Weather advisory, possible storm surge. Sandra watched water bead on the window. "Storm's coming," she murmured. "Better mop ready." She stood, squared her shoulders, and stepped into the corridor lights. In her reflection, she saw neither cleaner nor surgeon, only a woman carrying invisible scars as heavy as any mop bucket. And somewhere, deep behind her calm expression, a dormant instinct stirred. An instinct that would soon force her to break the vow she had clung to for 20 years. The storm hit before dawn, rattling the skyscraper with sheets of rain. NeuroNova buzzed like a disturbed hive. Staff in starched white coats rushed to polish the image of perfection for Kenji Takahashi, the billionaire investor whose check could triple their research budget. Sandra arrived early, soaked under her plastic poncho. She squeegeed the lobby glass while security scanned guest passes. Takahashi's limo pulled up, cameras flashed, anxious interns pressed earpieces, repeating, "Keep him happy." Takahashi strode in, slight, silver-haired, breathing fast. His personal translator noted that the flight had been turbulent, that the gentleman refused breakfast. Sandra's gaze snapped to the flush in his cheeks, the tremor in his hand. She felt, not heard, an irregular thump echo in her memory. Guided past her, Takahashi offered a courteous nod. She inclined her head, recognizing polite dignity, and returned to her bucket. The elevator doors closed. Yet moments later, a security siren blared from the executive floor. A frantic voice on the PA, "Medical emergency, boardroom A." Employees froze. Someone cried, "We need a doctor." The on-site physician was across town at a conference. Paramedics 15 minutes out, an eternity when the muscle slips into chaos. Sandra's heartbeat hammered. No more operations. But the oath beneath that vow thundered louder. First, do no harm, and never walk away. She bolted for the stairs, avoiding the main elevator to save seconds. Her knees protested each flight, but she pushed past the pain. Memory took over. Count steps, conserve breath, visualize anatomy. Outside the boardroom, a cluster of executives blocked the door, shouting contradictory instructions. "Get the defib." "No, put him on his side," Sandra elbowed through. "Move!" The single word cut the noise like a scalpel. They stared, stunned by the authority in a cleaner's voice, but parted. Takahashi lay supine, skin ash-grey, hand clutching his chest. Pulse weak, respirations shallow. Sandra knelt, ripped open his tailored jacket with decisive tugs. Buttons pinged across the polished floor. She tilted his head, checked airway, placed 2 fingers on carotid. "Bradycardic, he needs compressions." An assistant whimpered. "Do we trust her?" Sandra ignored him. She laced her fingers, heel to sternum, and began the rhythm. 30 compressions, 2 rescue breaths. She counted in her head. 1, 2, 3, each pump deliberate, angle perfect. Her arms shook from age and adrenaline, but training steadied her. She barked for aspirin, nitrile gloves, oxygen if anyone had sense to fetch it. Blood returned to Takahashi's cheeks like dawn creeping over mountains. He gasped as she delivered another breath. Eyes fluttered, then focused on her. A whisper, "Arigato." Sirens wailed below. Paramedics burst in, stunned to find a janitor running point. Sandra rattled off vitals, assisted with loading, then stepped back, breath ragged. Executives stared, shame mingling with awe. The HR director managed, "Where did you learn that?" Sandra peeled off her gloves, dropped them in a biohazard bin, and met his gaze. "Mopping floors teaches rhythm," she said, voice calm as twilight. Turning away, she walked down the corridor, each step slower, shoulders heavier. By the time the elevator reached the lobby, she was gone, leaving only wet footprints that ended at a maintenance exit. News traveled faster than the storm. By midday, every workstation hummed with rumor. "She used the recovery position," whispered a nurse. "Called for milligrams and joules like she invented the code," marveled an orderly. CEO Andrew Neil summoned security. "Find our mystery surgeon." They produced her personnel file, 2 paragraphs, 0 history, a temp agency address. Neil ordered background checks. Nothing. Meanwhile, Takahashi regained consciousness in the ambulance and demanded his translator call the office. His first words, "Thank the doctor." Medical staff corrected him. "No doctor, only janitor." Takahashi insisted, "She saved my life. Proper chest compressions at proper depth. That is no janitor." Neil's panic deepened. If a liability suit emerged, he would bleed investors. He scoured camera footage, Sandra sprinting upstairs, performing CPR with flawless form. One frame froze him, the intensity in her eyes, familiar only in trauma surgeons. He rang an old college friend now high in Veterans Affairs. "Run the name Sandra Collins." Silence on the line then. "You sure you want this, Drew? Classified level?" Neil swallowed. "I need it." Hours later, an encrypted file arrived. Sandra Jane Collins, rank Colonel, Army Medical Corps, dishonorable discharge, pending court-martial, sealed. Allegation, negligent surgery resulting in casualty death, subsequent disappearance. Neil's stomach knotted. He printed the file, hands trembling over the blacked-out sections. A sticky note from his friend read, "Off the record, she took the fall for faulty equipment. Hero to the men who survived." Lightning cracked beyond the window. Neil whispered, "What are you doing scrubbing our floors?" Night draped the city. Sandra's small apartment flickered with candlelight. The storm had knocked out power. She sat at a wooden desk, pen poised over thick stationery. Her handwriting flowed steady, surgical in its precision. "Dear Mr. Neil, you do not know me, yet you know who I am." She wrote of vows kept and broken, of guilt heavy as lead vests, of Jared's final exhale. She acknowledged the corporate cruelty she had endured without protest. Then, "Today I repaid one life. The scale is not balanced, but it is closer. I hereby resign." She folded the pages, slipped them into an envelope, and pressed Jared's dog tag inside. Sealing wax hissed under the flame. At dawn, she donned her uniform one last time. She cleaned her own kitchen floor until it gleamed, placed the envelope on the counter for the courier, and stepped into the rain, carrying nothing but an old field jacket. Neil arrived at the deserted apartment with security. Power still out, rooms stripped bare. On the counter, the envelope awaited him. He opened it, dog tag clinking onto the marble. The letter's final line burned into his mind. "Do not spend your life chasing share price while lives hang in the balance. Remember the woman who cleaned your floors and your conscience in one move." Neil closed his eyes. On the tag, the name Jared glinted like accusation. He ordered a plaque mounted in the lobby in honor of the unnamed healer who saved a stranger without question. "Let compassion, not title, guide this house." At the unveiling, employees bowed heads. Takahashi, arm in sling, placed a white lily before the plaque. "Her hands," he said softly, "were steadier than any surgeon I have met." Weeks passed. The storm damage repaired, profits soaring after Takahashi's doubled investment, yet whispers lingered. Will she return? Where did she go? Far from the city, in a ramshackle clinic on a coastal highway, a volunteer called Jane tended fishermen with sun-baked skin and migrant families with nowhere else to turn. She wore no name badge, only steady eyes and blue nitrile gloves. A child with a broken arm sobbed while Jane set the bone. The mother asked, "Are you really just a nurse?" Jane smiled, taping the splint. "Titles are heavy. I travel light." Outside, gulls wheeled against a silver sky. Jane lifted her face to the wind. For the first time in 20 years, the weight in her chest felt less than the salt in the air. Somewhere, a corporate office praised a ghost. Here, a living woman stitched new futures in quiet rooms. She washed her hands, returned to the waiting area, and called, "Next, please." And if her pulse quickened each time she heard distant sirens, no one noticed. The mop bucket by the doorway gleamed, unused yet ready, a reminder that sometimes the lowest tool becomes the highest calling, and a broken vow can still mend a world, one beating heart at a time.